Up next, we have the Honourable Bernie Finn. Bernie has represented the Western Metropolitan Region in the Legislative Council since 2006. Before that, he was the member for the electoral district of Tullamarine in the Victorian Legislative Assembly from 1992 to 1999. Today, he's leading big change in Victoria, for the Democratic Labor Party this election. In a moment, Bernie will be speaking on abortion, euthanasia, unrestrained prostitution, and the abuse of parliamentary process. Bernie, welcome to the stage.
Well, thank you, Joel and Bill. Well done. That was a pretty sensational effort to get through that many slides in 15 minutes. I'm impressed. Well done. As Joel said, I am the leader of the Democratic Labor Party in Victoria, and if you told me that in the lead up to the last election that I would be going into this election as the leader of the DLP, I probably would have had you committed, because at that point in time I was a very happy member of the Liberal Party and very enthusiastically working hard to elect Matthew Guy as Premier. Well, isn't it amazing what happens over a short period of time? Because whilst we have a Premier who is the worst that we have ever seen in the state, without question, a government which is the worst that we've ever seen in the state, as Bill said, Matthew Guy is sadly not a lot better. And he proved that just a few months ago when he threw me out of the Liberal Party for being pro-life. He said I could be pro-life, he just said I couldn't say it. So work that out, you know. I'm sure there's some split definitions there somewhere, but that was the view. So here I am now as the leader of the DLP, a party that I first joined when I was 13 years of age back in 1974, which is a little while ago, and it's just a delight. I should actually send Matthew a card and thank him, because I haven't enjoyed politics so much for years as I have over the last few months, being with people who actually agree with me, and a party that's actually supporting me. So that is really something. And this party, this DLP that I have rejoined, it is a conservative Labor Party. It's what the Labor Party used to be before the Commos took over. That's basically what it is. We are a party that believes in workers. We are a party that believes in small business. We are a party that believes in traditional families. We are a party that believes in freedom. Indeed, we are the original Freedom Party. We split from the ALP in 1955 over the issue of freedom, and we have held freedom dear since that time. So it's coming up on 70 years of my. If my arithmetic is correct, and it probably isn't, but it's coming up on 70 years, I believe, and we strongly believe in freedom, as indeed the other speakers here do today. Now, we have seen over the past 8 years some appalling things, but possibly the most appalling thing that I've seen since I returned to Parliament, it was my first term in the Upper House, was the Abortion Law Reform Act of 2008, where the then Labor government, under the control of the Health Minister, Daniel Andrews, removed all legal protection for children before birth. All legal protection. In this state, abortion is available to be committed at every month during pregnancy, right up until a child would otherwise be born. If you kill a baby at 8.5, 9.5 months, as long as the baby isn't born, that's fine. That's fine. That is perfectly legal. Daniel Andrews did that. As Health Minister, Daniel Andrews did that. Later on, he stopped people from standing outside abortuaries, offering help. Can you believe in this country, in this state, we have a situation where if you offer somebody in trouble help, you go to jail. You go to jail. What an extraordinary situation. But that's what we have seen happen in Victoria. And of course, there has been significant persecution of the pro-life community, significant persecution of those people who hold the sorts of values that indeed we all do. It is absolutely extraordinary. As Bill said, we have a war going on in this state. a war against the people by the government. And we've seen that in very real terms over the last 2.5 years. We've seen it in the streets. But there's a war going on against children in particular. And there are others who are going to speak about that, and Bill certainly made reference to it. And that war against children begins in the womb. The womb should be the safest place for children on this earth. That's where they should be the safest in the world. But they're not. But they're not. And as we stand, or as I stand here, as you sit here today, there are babies being killed in this state, in this city. Probably not far from where we are right now. There are babies being killed. And if we try to stop that, Daniel Andrews will lock us up. He will send his political police in and he will lock us up. And whilst I have the greatest of respect for the men and women of the thin blue line, police command stinks. And apart from the politicisation of the education system, the politicisation of Victoria Police Command is the greatest scandal of the Andrews government. I feel, as a pro-lifer in Victoria, I feel like a black man in Mississippi in 1964. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. It is just phenomenal. And of course, it was Daniel Andrews who went to the election in 2014, vowing and declaring that he would never legalise euthanasia. We took him at his word. How stupid were we? Because, of course, he did a backflip. He said one thing, he did the other. He does that quite often. Daniel Andrews is one of the best liars on the face of the earth. Or is it the worst? I'm not sure. Take it whichever way you will. But he did it again on the euthanasia issue. He said that he would never legalise euthanasia, but that is exactly what he did. That is exactly what he did. And he pushed it. We sat there all night, and he pushed it through the Parliament, just as he did the abortion bill. And you know, when you get to a point in Parliament where you just can't think anymore. I mean, some suggest that going into Parliament means you can't think, but there are times in Parliament where they make you sit to a point where you just cannot have any cognizance of where you are and what you're doing. And that is the point that Andrews pushed us. And he does it, and he hasn't done it for a while, but he certainly, in these controversial pieces of legislation, that's what he does all the time. And for that, I believe he stands condemned. So we have euthanasia in this state. So we're not just killing babies at the beginning of life, we're killing old people, we're killing the sick at the end of life. And you can't tell me that older people do not feel a responsibility to die now. You know, people talk about the right to die. Forget that. You know, older people, sick people, those who might feel that they are a burden, they will feel the obligation, the responsibility and the obligation to die. And that is only going to get worse. Thank you, Daniel Andrews, for your contribution to the sanctity of life. Such a great Catholic. Such a great Catholic. Isn't he just? Now. We know that Daniel Andrews has got a lot of legislation through Parliament by doing deals with his mates. Those mates include Fiona Patten, who I pray, and I got kicked out of the Liberal Party for praying, but I pray still that Fiona Patten will feel the cold steel of the voters' sword on the 26th of November. If ever there was a more dangerous individual who sat in the Victorian Parliament, I don't know who it is, because she is a shocker. But of course, she and Daniel Andrews have been very, very close, very, very close. If she puts up an idea, they'll say, oh no, we won't support that. But 6 months later, they'll introduce it as their own. And she put up a bill earlier this year to remove the Lord's Prayer. And of course, the ALP didn't support that. But Dan did say, if we win in November, we'll review it. Let me tell you here today, If Daniel Andrews wins on November 26th, the Lord's Prayer in this state, in this parliament, is finished. That's it. That's it. And that is a fact. That is a reality. I'm not a clairvoyant. You don't have to be a clairvoyant to see that coming, because Daniel Andrews has made it very clear that they will be revisiting the Lord's Prayer after the election if he is still Premier. Good reason to win Mulgrave, I would have thought, Aidan, and a few others running around Mulgrave as well. So there's a whole lot of things going on. How long have I got to go, Ed? Have I got 10 minutes? Oh, I'm just relaxing. Look, I have seen some extraordinary things happen during the course of this parliament. As I say, we have been pushed beyond our physical and mental capacities on a number of occasions to get legislation through, which is quite frankly just appalling. And there has been an orchestrated and a concerted attack on people of faith. And as I've said to the Board of Imams, as I've said to the Islamic Council just over this last week, it's not restrained to Christians. Not constrained to Christians. It is in fact going to be against everybody who believes in God. Because let's face it, the Christians and the Muslims on these sorts of issues are as one. We are as one. And the government will persecute us all. And they're going after the kids. Others will make greater reference to this, but they are going after the kids. And they're it's almost as if they've adopted the old Jesuit slogan of grab them by six and you got them for life. And that's what the ALP is doing now. I see it with my own kids. And it's just appalling what's happening in the state. Just appalling what's happening in the state. It's just extraordinary that we would have a government which has an education system which is telling kids not how to think, but what to think. And if you don't think that way, then there's something wrong with you. That's the message that they give. If you don't think the way they do, there's something wrong with you. This is a premeditated, a deliberate campaign to infect, and I use that word advisedly, infect the minds of Victoria's kids. If you can't kill them before they're born, let's get them as soon after, and we'll poison their minds then. It's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. And we've got people like Fiona Patten, like Andy Meddick, who believes that animals are more important than babies. He said that. I've heard him say it. These people who, quite frankly, some of them are nuts. But we used to think they were nuts. These days, we're the nuts. We're the ones who are being locked up because our views are unacceptable, or we're being intolerant. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, isn't it amazing? The people who call us intolerant wouldn't know tolerance if they fell over it. You know, if it jumped up and bit them on the left leg, they wouldn't know tolerance if it was handed to them. That's what we're dealing with. Those of us who are supportive of conservative principles, supportive of Christian values, that's what we cop every day. And this election is just so important to change that. Now, this election is the one we must draw a line in the sand. You know, no more of this. No more of this. We are not going to put up with this any longer. And if we do, you know whose fault it is? Us. It's our fault. It's our fault. So it's our responsibility to stand up at this election and tell Daniel Andrews what he can do with his policies that are discriminating against traditional families, that are discriminating against believers in God, against churches, against people who want to live their lives in a peaceful and caring way, but with God involved. This is our opportunity to tell Daniel Andrews, no more, no more. And the way we do that is by turfing him out next month. Because you know, as well as I do, that if Daniel Andrews gets another 4 years, he will take that. He will take that as an endorsement by the public of Victoria at what he's done over the past 4 years. Oh yes, there'll be lockdowns back. Don't worry about that. They'll be locking us down again. Locking us up again, perhaps I should say. That'll be happening. That'll be happening. The campaigns against our kids, the poisoning of minds, that will continue. That will grow. That will grow. That will continue. So we have, I think, a responsibility, an obligation to stop this, and to stop this now. Stop it dead in its tracks. And if we don't, then we have to live with what we sow. What you sow shall you reap. And that's exactly what we face next year. And can I give you another piece of advice? If Dan Andrews does get back, do not get between a Victorian population centre and the border. You will be killed in the rush. Because I know so many people who cannot wait to get out of the place if he gets back in. They're already planning. They're already planning. And I'm getting messages from people in Queensland saying, enough, we've already got enough Victorians up here. You know, the price of accommodations going through the roof, you know, the cost of living going through the roof, and it's all you Victorians' fault. And throw him out and stay there. Oh, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy to do that. Sadly, as I say, the opposition isn't much better, and Bill pointed this out as well. The opposition isn't much better, but anything is an improvement on Daniel Andrews and what he has done to our state, and perhaps even more importantly, what he will do to our state if he is re-elected. Because this guy's ego is totally out of control. He thinks he is better than each and every one of us. And those on the left will take his re-election as a sign that they are. We can't let that happen. We can't let it happen. Let's stand up on this occasion and not just vote against him, go out and work against him, campaign against him. We've got 4 parties here today that are all, well, pretty much united as one, I think. We might have minor disagreements on what, I'm not sure, but we all as one. Don't just vote, go out and campaign and work hard to ensure that good people are elected to Parliament, because good parliamentarians make good laws. They make good government. And if you don't have good people in there, you're going to have neither. You will have neither. And you will have the continuation of what we have. So I thank you all very much for your attendance today. For those of you who are watching, g'day. And I thank you for tuning in, because this is a vital, an important, a crucial part in the history of this state. You know, I know every politician says that this election is the most important election in the history of the state. Well, let me tell you, this one is. I thought back in 1992 when I was first elected that was when we threw Kerner out. But let me tell you, that was nothing. That was nothing compared to the importance of this election. This one will decide the future of this state, or indeed if this state has a future at all. And it is up to every single one of us to do everything that we possibly can, everything that we can possibly do to remove the Andrews government, or at the very least ensure that he doesn't have a majority in the upper house. That is absolutely crucial as well, because if he has a majority in both houses, I'm going to Queensland too. Let me tell you, let me go, and you know, that may well be invite Trump over to build a wall up there as well. But it is what I say. It is an extremely important time in the history of this state. I ask you all to take it as seriously as it is, because if we don't, we're going to be stuck with this chap for an extended period, and what he will do from this point on, I fear to think. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. To those of you who are watching, thank you, and Let's roll up our sleeves, folks. Let's do this.
Thank you, Bernie. Some very good points about that. You would be surprised how many people I've talked to, sitting MPs even, that have said they would move if Dan Andrews gets in. So let's give it our best shot.